So why am I doing this? I'm starting this podcast because we all have a story and finances play a part in our struggles and successes. If we can learn from the many mistakes many others have made, we can make sure that more of us are successful. Like the quote says, to increase the chances of success, we must increase our failure rate. To be honest, I failed a ton. I will bring people from all walks of life, but mostly service members. If you have a story you would like to share, do not hesitate to reach out. From the go, like and subscribe to this podcast so many others can benefit. Welcome to this next episode of Financial Enabler Podcast. Today I have Trevor from Abaddon Knives. Pretty cool brand. You've probably seen them on Instagram. If you feel lucky if you're able to get one. With that, I want to shout out to, this is that Navy unit from Kings Bay. In the back of the shirt, it says, what is it? It's like, not the best, but better than banger. Freaking love it. My girlfriend brought it. Somehow all the Navy EOD shirts I get are tiny on me. You guys just ordering small or what?
You're just that huge, man.
That's not true. That's not true. How you doing, dude?
I'm good. I think this is like a medium, and I'm just like bursting out.
Yeah, man. So I'm glad to have you on here. I want to ask very little about your background in EOD. I want to get to like the important stuff, which is finance, business, and all that other stuff. But give us I know you're a Navy EOD guy. What are you open to share, and what are you currently doing?
I'll give you a brief rundown. I joined the Navy in about 2012, and went straight to EOD school. And from there, 4 deployments, a little bit of time at a shore duty. And for the past 2 years, I've been an underwater instructor here in Virginia Beach. So,
Right. And what division do you teach in?
The underwater division. So we do house mine countermeasures and underwater demolition and all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm a Marine. I know nothing about some of my Marine brothers know a lot about underwater. I don't. So generally, I gather that the MCM mission is not glamorous. Most guys don't want to do it. So if you had a brand new E5, E6 going to a training unit, and they're like, hey, bud, you're going underwater. Is he screwed or is it a good thing?
Nah, it's the best thing for you because, the underwater mission it's the most classic Navy EOD mission there is. And it's probably the one that's going to be existing in perpetuity.
Yeah.
A lot of these OGs haven't gotten the message that the GWAT's over, but
yeah,
clearing sea lanes and clearing the maritime environment for an amphibious assault, that's the direct lineage from the UDT teams all the way through the Korea, Vietnam, First Gulf War, and mines are not going away. So,
no.
And being a good Navy EOD tech means you got to be a good diver. You got to be good with explosives. You got to be good with air mobility and sea mobility. And honestly, in terms of a division, it's the total package.
So that's awesome. Yeah. I don't think enough guys value that, and that's cool. It's cool to hear that. With that, funny story. Talk about clearing lanes. I was just speaking with this British UD tech working in Ukraine. And he's talking about clearing 1 to 2 kilometers worth of mines. You're talking like 100 mines in a day, and I'm like, bro, that's a whole different game. In the GWAT, we're like, oh man, I did 15 IEDs if it was a lot, and I'm like, I don't care if mines are simpler. I don't want to do hundreds of anything.
When you get to that level, complacency will kill you, and I think the burnout in that future battlefield is going to be high.
Oh yeah. He was talking. He was telling me that right now the infantry forces are deployed for 3 months, and they come back spent. And I'm like, bro, I couldn't imagine that, dude.
Yeah, that's just wild. I mean, even if you look at the European theater after World War II, there's still vast stretches around Paris, Britain, and Germany where they're going to be clearing UXO for the next 1,000 years.
Yeah, it's not going to stop.
Yeah, and the beauty of being the beauty of, excuse me, I stammer from time to time.
You're fine.
The beauty of being an EOD tech is that there's always going to be work for people like us, no matter what theater of war, conflict, or humanitarian work. Whether you're bolted onto a SEAL team or an ODA or part of a independent mobility platoon, You have to have you have to be so deft at the basics of demolition, mobility, IED safety that those skill sets translate to every theater. And to exercise them daily in what I do, it's probably the most rewarding thing.
For sure. I wish we, those of us that did the GWAT and missed out on this kind of battlefield. Right? Not didn't miss out, but we didn't have it. It wasn't available in the Rolodex of deployments. It's a totally different thing and is not any less dangerous. And I think due to saturation, it's way worse. Right?
I can't claim that I ever did anything really hardcore.
Yeah.
And nor would I make any claims knowing that, the guys that mentored me have blood on their hands, and some of my peers and my mentors are now on the wall. But, being able to stay focused and stay sharp to that next ridgeline is the most critical thing out there.
For sure.
And any experience. And I tell this to new guys all the time, whether you're doing a range clearance or you're downrange with a team of hitters, any experience is good experience. Just practicing those same basic skill sets, no matter where you go. And the better you are at that, the more valuable you are to any tiered asset.
For sure. I like that. I like that perspective. It's very mature that take anything, and instead of just complaining about it, it's like, oh, I have to do this, insert bullshit, right? Like take with a smile on your face, it'll be good. With that, you talk about the take any experience. Is there, as you've moved to business, I know you're still in the Navy, how has it been, the transition from a service member to being a business owner? And is there any correlation in your mind?
I'll redirect the question because there really is no transition. It was more of just bringing these skill sets out of myself because I found that to be kind of lacking in my lifestyle, being so dedicated to the craft that a couple of years ago, I was so I'm going to do this trip, then I got to do this deployment, and I got to go to the gym, and I'm going to go home and blah, 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 and I'll be perfectly honest with you, man, for a good stretch of time there, I put on some weight. I was failing team leader drills. I just was not focused because I was burnt out. And I realized I need something I can do for an hour or two a week that is just for me, I can focus on it, just get out of the realm. And I had no intention of ever starting a knife business or a knife company, but it's like you make one in your shed, it takes a couple of weeks and you get that satisfaction. You're like, I think I could do this a little bit better. So you make another one and you make another one. And when you're about a dozen into it and you wear one to work and one of your colleagues is like, oh, that's cool. Where'd you get that? And you're like, oh, I made it. And he's like, oh, will you make me one? Even though it sucks, you're like, yeah, I'm happy to make you one, and that drive to make that one for your friend is like, this one better be the best fucking one I've ever made in my life.
Yeah.
And just those, and how that translates back to the military career was the attention to detail and focus that I put into crafting the best knife for one of my colleagues, kind of through osmosis translated back into my normal everyday mentality. And I found myself emerging as a better tech, as a better father, as a better all around person, because I realized that I had that intimate space just for myself where I wasn't pressured by generations of chiefs that are like, you gotta be the fucking hardest motherfucker ever, and I wasn't pressured by my friends or my wife to meet any expectation other than my own. And having that space, really the luxury of time really is, man, I'm just fortunate. I think I'm one of the lucky ones. So, and now I'm probably 600 or 700 knives in, and I'm at the point now where it's I've really developed this craft where it's I know how to do it. I know how to do it quickly. I know how to do it well. And I can charge I think a below market value, because I don't think anybody should be paying $800 or $900 for a tool they're going to be jamming in a door or hacking up an animal with, So, so it's really not about the money. And I think that's the same reason why EOD techs do it. It's not about the money. It's about the thrill. It's about the innovation. It's about the pushing your own limit to be the best of what you can do at any given time.
Yeah. I love that. Right. And I just recently, that Alex Formosi guy I was talking about, he is very big on charging an exorbitant amount of money on everything, but it's because he gives a lot of value, right? But it's different, right? Because so you, in your case, you could charge less because you are getting a value.
That's true.
Right? And I just thought of that. I was like, okay, that's worth it. If in a way, Abaddon Knives is not for the knives, it's for you, right? Oh, sheesh.
That's all good. Hey,
Yeah.
it's
Sorry.
Abaddon
Okay,
Knives.
could you hear that? How did I say it?
Yeah, it got a little glitchy there for a second. It's pronounced Abaddon.
Abaddon. Oh man, I didn't know that. I thought it was abandoned.
Nah, it's cool.
Oh wow.
I hear that all the time. My name's Trevor, and people call me Travis, and I don't get it. It's like,
Oh, dude, I was so serious about like be picky with someone's name. So sorry for that, everybody. I was like had a phone call come in, but yeah, I think that's huge, right? If you're giving value, you can charge a lot, right? And this guy has a mantra that is like, I'm going to answer every single concern, so I can charge a lot.
that's true.
But this person is getting a package that all their problems are fixed. But in your case, it's almost not a selfish, but it's almost a for you thing. So you could charge less, right? Because you're getting a lot of reward from it immediately. And it's not about the financial reward at this time. I'm sure that conversely, you could make the perfect knife, theoretically, and charge a ton of money and it'd be fine. Somebody will pay for it. But it's different end goals, you know?
Yeah, I'd wanted to make a knife for years. Like I'm always like my whole life I've always made tools and built things and whatever. And the knives that we get issued they just don't cut it, So I was like, yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to design a knife that is perfect for what I do. I cut a lot of explosives, I chop a lot of doors, I cut a lot of heavy line. You skin game with them. And the design, like it's kind of like that Kierkegaard theory where form meets function.
Yeah.
And being able to produce something that is functional and beautiful, the reward that I get out of that is so much more valuable when I hand it to somebody and they're like, wow, this is like a real, like, I'm going to use this. And I'm like, you better use it because that's what it's designed for. It's not meant to sit on a shelf. It's not meant to be in a shadow box. This is meant to be destroyed. And if you destroy it in normal use, man, you know what? No skin off my back. I'll just make you another one. Like it's cool.
Yeah. And that, it's interesting. I'm very functional with my purchases, and I hate buying knives. I despise buying knives 100%. And it's because I feel that I don't have a use for them. I'm like, the only thing I ever opened with a knife was an MRE. So I'm like, no, I don't need it, right? So I've never felt a need. But every time I have a friend that makes knives, when I saw yours, I was like, man, what do I need a knife for? I want to buy one really bad. I just don't need it.
That's that natural masculine urge. Like, oh, I need another gun. Oh, I need hurt nods. I need a big knife. I need a samurai sword,
Yeah. Yeah. No, you don't. Yeah. But you do. Yeah, that's interesting.
So when you're out of the demo range and you bust out a Gucci knife to cut open some blocks, people notice. They're like, yeah, like that is cool.
You see a guy treating a Stika C4 like cutting at a kitchen. He's like,
yeah.
Oh wow,
can cook like,
Yeah. So that's awesome. It's like that. And I apologize, I asked because I knew you're still in. So with that, do you have anything that carried over from being an EOD tech to your business? Right, that you were like, man, I'm glad that the military gave me this.
I would say that not any like specific technical skill, right?
Yeah,
it's more of the extrinsic values of like, and I tell this to my new guys all the time. Like the two things I reward the most when I train people is I look for like aggression, and I look for candidness. It's like. You got to hit this as hard as you can, no matter what it is. And you're here. So do it and do it right.
Yeah.
And candidness is, as the other side of that coin is just the honesty with yourself to, vocalize what you're doing or to vocalize a mistake or to vocalize what you're learning and keep an accurate record of it. So if somebody decides to follow down that same path, whether it's a drill or a pro dev or a school or something like that, or even like doing something for yourself, like making a knife or a bird table or like a bird cage or whatever, it's like, it's that candidness. It's that honesty of self-expression married up to the aggression of doing something that you really love. That,
I like that.
yeah, if you take those two extrinsic values and apply them to anywhere in your life, military, personal craft, your marriage,
Yeah.
that will get you anywhere. And I think those two extrinsic values are kind of the invisible pillars of American culture. Like, we are naturally aggressive people. We're naturally candid people. When we go out into the world, like, my wife is a South African citizen, and she has to tell me all the time, like, not everybody understands the American way of, like, in your face, gonna do this, gonna do it right kind of mentality. And those are kind of like the invisible strings which pluck at every American in a cultural sense. And to subdue those, whether subconsciously or not, is you're really denying not only like human nature, but the freedom to get out there and make something for yourself.
Dude, that is so true. And the aggression, and it's funny you say that, because I was just listening to a podcast today, and you're talking about the vibration, the good energy. And I feel that while you're saying the same thing, right, from these other guys who are in the personal development space, they cannot walk up to the business world and be like, you got to be aggressive, we're saying the same things. That candor, that passion, that fire, that aggression of the journey of making something, doing your craft, which is not even for, clearly, like you stated, the knife is, while you get enjoyment of the production of this beautiful knife, for you is a lot of the making of the knife.
Yeah, that. And I think, to round out your point, is to be aggressive doesn't mean that you're being negative.
No.
To be candid doesn't mean that you're just saying things for the sake of saying them.
Right.
To be aggressive is you're being honest with what you're pursuing, and to be candid means to be aggressive with the truth that you have to admit to yourself that and it's going to take time, and you have to be honest about it.
Right. And hopefully it's so interesting. A lot of people want the journey to end, and we're like, nah, I don't want it to end. I just want to, that's the beauty of it, right? Like you and I were talking about being a father, right? Like, it's, the beauty is that it doesn't stop, and you should only get better at it, And hopefully at one point when you tell your kid, it's like, I can't answer that. But then at the same time, the next day he's going to walk in and be like, oh, I can answer that, right? It should never end.
You should treat your kid like you treat a new guy. Like, if they come to you with a question, it's okay to say, I don't know, but you owe them that lookup,
Yeah.
I need to know that.
Right.
Or it's okay to be like, you're capable to learn that yourself. And that's part of that handedness, to be like, you need to realize that you have a limitation, and then you have to get over that. So go do it. Go clean your room, even though it's a mess, or whatever,
Yeah. No, I think that's a big deal, right? Like, how what we owe to our kids, right? I'm really big on this quote. And again, I'm not a father. I'm just trying to prep my mind now. This guy that I'm a huge fan of, he says, be the man your kids think you are.
I think I heard that as like, be the person your dog thinks you are, right?
Yeah, that's another. Yeah, be that person, right? Because a lot of people are not that person, right? They're living this almost this dream, and they're like lazy, not performing, but then they expect their kids to think that you're this incredible man. I was like, live up to that, right? Be that. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I think that's the illusion of maturity and status. Because some of my colleagues, and I won't say who, like, they're members of NSW teams, or these high level units. And don't get me wrong, they're not bad guys, but they go to their kids and they're like, "You're going to be a Navy SEAL. You're going to be an EOD tech. You're going to be a Green Beret. You're going to be whatever," right? And a 6, 7, 8-year-old has no concept whatsoever of what goes into that. They just see the movie or the book and they're like, oh, I'm just there, right?
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny to see that manifest in the public sphere of like, it's almost like we fetishize the door kicking, quad nod wearing hitter, but you don't understand the years of just physical and emotional toil that go into that one moment of being so terrified that you're not even like thinking about it. You know? So when I try to mentor my kids about what I do, it's like, I don't tell them I'm an EOD tech. I say, today at work, we were on a boat and we were swimming in the water and we made a big explosion, and to be able to break down a process to a child like that, kids are smart. Like, do not sleep on kids, right? They know better than us, right? But if you break down a process to them, they understand that better because they're like, wow, now I don't know how a boat works, or how far did you have to swim, So if they build those incremental pieces, they're not losing. Well, I guess they're appreciating that the enchantment of the badge or the label actually involves process, right?
Right.
Like people see a completed knife, right? They don't see the years of grinding in a cold shed, seeking out mentors and making mistakes and throwing away steel and burning your fingers and like almost, cutting limbs off in the pursuit of something that, the end state is very pretty and very respectable, but you don't see the heartbreak in a lot of modern marketing,
Yeah.
Whether you're, like you see a t-shirt with like a hot chick in a bikini standing next to a mortar and it's like, yeah, that looks sexy, but that will never, ever, ever happen.
No, not at all. Not at all. And there's so much hard
either, because I think that'd be kind of cool, but
and there's so much hard work tied to like that journey that, like you said, it's not about that end point and fetishizing being an operator, which is incredible, right? Those of us that have been able to like dabble into it, there's people that are way better at it.
That's true.
It's like, man, I wish people wouldn't put that pressure on their kids, right? And maybe walk them through it and make them not want the trident or the badge or the stripper chicken, like we call for the Marsoc Raiders.
Stripper chicken, cool, dude.
As they call it. But it's like, what does it entail, and make the kids value that, like, I have to go do hard stuff. I have to go try to stay alive, and I'm about to do something very dangerous. I love you. I might not come back, but it's almost every day, right?
If you think about the value set that is implanted in any task, when my son voluntarily cleans his room without being told, he is miles ahead of some of these NSW operators that have to be told to do some really basic concepts.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you know what, kid? Like, I would rather work with you than some guy who just managed to survive some hard training by luck someday,
Right.
You get, because I didn't have to tell you to do it. Nobody told me to make knives. It's like I deliberately took on that burden because I didn't even know if I would enjoy it. It was just, I'm just going to try something new. I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And go ahead.
No, please.
Once we finding that, like, whatever profession you do, if you're incredible at it, if you do it with passion, if you do it without supervision and you're good at it, that has more reward than a badge in our chest.
That's so true.
Right? I wish more people could look at support jobs and be like, hey man, like, and I saw it in Marsoc, right? Well, and people that look down on like the supply kid. I was like, bro, go treat that kid with pride and respect. Like, we are nothing without this kid, right?
That's
and it's
true.
like, and I wish more people value that. And who knows, maybe their kid is going to end up a supply person that deserves and wants the same respect and honor, right? Or he ends up a UPS driver making $170 a year. But like, how do we respect those things and value them if you're just good at it, right?
You ever read you ever read How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Just finished it.
Ah, amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like that's like I recommend that book to everybody in the military.
Yeah.
Because if you can, like, you're nobody without the people around you. You got to be able to empathize, and you got to be able to put yourself in that supply kid's shoe, you know?
Yeah.
Because he didn't join the Navy to jump out of airplanes. He joined the Navy to make sure you have enough pens so you could fill out your jump log, you know?
Yep.
And pride that he takes in that, as opposed to some cuck that's bitching about doing another JMPI. It's like, dude, I would so much rather work with you, you know? Like, because you get it, you know? Like,
and I'm sure that those kids, like, to that same point, right? If every SEAL, every Raider, every Green Beret, every EOD tech that walked into a supply or admin office and it was like, "Bud, thank you so much. You've made my day a little bit easier."
Doing that every time I have to go deal with like the Navy writ large.
Yeah.
I make sure I'm like, hey, how's it going? Like, I'm here to conduct some business, you know, so let's be efficient, but you do what you have to do and take as much time as you need, because I know that that's your job. You don't come to me and say, I need this EOD thing done, you know?
Yeah. Hurry up. Get that idea out of my way.
Yeah. We get this thing, you know? It's like,
they don't know that I got to go jump. Shut up.
Yeah. What? You know, I'll tell you what, those kids are the ones that we take out on the boats and that we take out to the demo range and we let them get a little taste. So at the end of their life, when they're like, yeah, I blew up a block of C4, that was like the highlight of my career. You know, that same kid is going to be the one when you're like, hey, I have this like administrative burden that I don't know how to do. That is the first guy to be there for you. You know,
First guy.
Take like check, like, it sounds corny, but like, don't necessarily check on your homies. I think that's kind of played out parlance, but don't just check on them. Like, take care of them. You know?
Oh yeah,
because we're nothing without your network. You know?
Nothing. And with that, let's get to that. Like, what like a little bit on. I'm gonna take a step back for jump into the network. What was your upbringing financially? What were things that your surroundings, your parents, your friends were talking about money? And what were your thoughts about money as you grow up?
You know, that's a good question. I would say, like, so I grew up in South Shore of Boston.
Nice.
I would definitely say I didn't grow up wealthy, but my parents, like, you know, my mom became a nurse when I was like 10 or 11 years old. My dad's worked in like biology labs his whole life. My dad was an FMF corpsman for a couple of years.
Cool.
You know, and, you know, it's like, I remember there was this kid that lived down the street, right? And his parents bought him everything, right?
Mm.
And he just had rooms full of shit, like video games and toys and all this crazy stuff, right? And his parents would pay him every time he beat a video game, right? And I remember thinking, even as like a nascent neophyte child, like, that is the most bullshit reward system imaginable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like, and don't get it twisted. Like, every little kid is like, I want this, I want that, you know? And it's like, I was fortunate to have good parents that had the wherewithal to be like, no, like, you can't have that. And it's not because we can't afford it. It's because you don't need that, you know? Like, and, you know, it's like, man, if I think about that type of mentality, like, now that I've matured and it's like, and I've surpassed my own parents in terms of wealth, you know, it's like, you know, it's just to put it in perspective, when my kid asks me for something, it's like, I'm not giving that because I can't afford it. It's because you don't need it, you know? And you need to be bored. You need to figure out what to do to make yourself happy. And, you know, it's like, I went to a state college. You know, when I was 11 years old, I took my dad's lawnmower and just went down the street and started cutting grass.
Love it.
You know what I mean? Like, I remember I had this neighbor who had like this dissident son. He was like an older guy, but he was kind of like one of like those local kind of like burnout dudes that would just like haul wood and cut grass and just do all the menial labor that nobody else wanted to do. And I remember he was at his father's house, who was my next door neighbor. And we were watching him just cut down a tree and just cut it up, right? And he was like, and my neighbor and I, we were maybe like 8 or 9 years old. And we were just watching him. We were like, because, you watch a big tree fall over. That's exciting when you're a kid,
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, what are you guys doing? And we're like, what are you talking about? He's like, if you're just going to stand there, you have to come over here and work. So we spent the whole day just hauling logs across this yard, right?
Nice.
And it became like that at I'll make a literary allusion to Moby Dick for those of you who have read it, where you're so swept up in the quality of not even the quality of the work, but you're so swept up in the process of work that I'll never forget that this guy's name was Theron. He ended up doing a murder rap a couple of years later. Funny to say, right? But but you were so swept up in the process of just the process of just hauling logs that at the end of the day, I was like, it doesn't matter that I'm tired. Like, I just so thoroughly enjoyed that work. And I saw those values in my parents that they would get home from whatever menial job they were doing and be like, they were like, man, you wouldn't believe the bullshit I saw today. They took such a joy in what they were doing, even though it was drudgery at times and they weren't making a lot of money, that just to have that joy in having a purpose is really what I think one of my core tenements that I've grown up and matured with.
That's a lot. Like we just connected that to your making knives, to your EOD career. And this is like you were from the beginning just into the process.
Yeah, dude. I love it. Like, I really consider my life like just a series of adventures.
Yeah.
Like, I would deliberately like I'd be like, oh, like my dad used to take me hiking, right? And we would look up at these big sheer cliff walls, right? And I'd be like, man, that'd be cool just to climb that sheer cliff wall. So my friend and I, we just went out and bought a book about climbing and a rope, and we just did.
Nice.
And I read, like, my friend Brian and I, we saw a documentary about like hoboing trains. So we're like, we're going to go hobo trains, So I did that, and like, man, I've done every job imaginable. I've like swept floors, I've washed dishes, I've cooked food, I've hauled wood.
Nice.
But at no point did I ever if I ever didn't enjoy it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish what I got to do, and then I'm gonna move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And fortunately, getting into the Navy EOD career, it's like it's so exciting, it's so interesting every day that it's like, okay, I can do this for a protracted amount of time,
Yeah.
But everywhere I go, I bring that aggression, I bring that candor,
That's awesome. It's pretty unique, and I wish more people would apply that. Like going back to How to Win Friends and Influence People, once you start connecting the dots of the books of the wealthy and the successful, it's generally the same stuff.
True.
And it's so funny to me, and I've said it in many podcasts, and I can say it forever. Google the YouTube, like what the successful say, YouTube, what the successful do, and it's all going to sound the same. But it's until we realize that it's not just motivational talk and we accept it, that it becomes valuable, right? Because after that, you're just like, oh, this is just fluff. And it's like, sure, it's fluff, but he's also a multimillionaire, right?
That's true. Like I remember like listening to people talk about how like Amazon and Walmart are like just these like venomous corporations sucking the life out of America.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, dude, Jeff Bezos was in a garage. He was like a scrawny ass nerd working his ass off, the people that started Walmart were just like, hey, we're going to start a corner store where you can just buy whatever you want, like we're going to make, and you can imagine those first 10 years of those businesses, they were not fun. They were great.
Yeah. It's easy to look back as like, oh, what is it? You're a 10-year overnight success,
Yeah. Like it's crazy. And unless you can imbue the joy of process into a young plastic mind, the people that don't the people that don't accept the joy of process as a value of their character are the same ones that go work in a cubicle and then bitch about how they don't enjoy their work because they don't understand the process, they don't understand the why. And my wife says this, we are so fortunate to have been born in the latter half of the 20th century in the United States, because money is here, opportunity is here. This is one of the, and she grew up, like, she was a child in apartheid South Africa, right? And so she grew up surrounded by poverty. And I've been there a few times. I've seen some of the world's worst poverty, even on deployments. And here comes Odin.
Okay.
That's my big beefy boy here.
And what's up, buddy?
Yeah, this is Odin. Say hi.
What's up,
Oh, he's a good boy.
Yeah.
What was I saying? She's like, this is the only place on earth where you can fail, where you can go bankrupt and still completely rebuild your life. And that opportunity for risk is so undervalued.
Oh yeah.
That it's like, if you come at something with the right attitude about enjoying the process, about being aggressive, about being candid, man, you could fail at anything, but you're going to have so much fun doing it that, man, who cares if you got to do a little extra paperwork or pay some taxes? It's like, those things are so temporary and so ephemeral that if you got to the end of your life and didn't take a huge risk or didn't have fun doing it, like, you might as well just give up,
Dude, that is so true. And we definitely don't value the failure, right? Especially the military. I generally believe that does not value failure, right? It was like,
true.
No fail mission. You can't mess up anything up. You have that one shot to pick up E7, whatever. But then you go to you go talk to.
I failed a few master boards, so I'm pretty okay with failure.
Yeah, it's good, right? It makes you better, right? But you go talk to, I'm sure, well, I've never talked to Jeff Bezos, but I'm sure if you talk to Bezos or an Elon and they're like, bro, I messed this up, I messed that up, I messed this up. And it's like long list of failures that they needed. And the moment that we accept that process and we enjoy it is so much better. And again, our life isn't at risk. Unlike I was born in Colombia, you fail, South Africa, I'm sure you fail, you're like,
you're done.
I actually don't have a way to feed my family tonight.
Yeah,
it's
over. Absolutely done. I've been to Colombia, dude. I've seen that poverty there. It's it's horrific. And people are like, I believe in give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses. If you're willing to trek thousands of miles through Wild West territory to get here to have a chance, it's like, I think you earned it,
Oh yeah.
I just like those support people. It's like, I would rather work with the guy that risked his life for the chance to be a landscaper than some dipshit college kid who has racked up $250,000 in debt, not because society told them that college was the key to success.
Yeah. And to that, like, valuing those people, it just, I'm trying to go back to one thing that you said earlier, is like, how people are and how they complain about the process, and how is it that we have people in our professions, EOD techs, CSOs, SEALs, Green Berets, that are like, oh man, this place sucks because of whatever. And it's like, dude, you suck. You're making it suck. It's like,
I tell people all the time, dude, we are spoiled turds. We have it so good.
We have everything.
Yeah, we have everything we want, And whether the work's there some days or not, it's like, you know what? If you don't have to go clear a range or do an IED or do a direct hit or whatever line of work you're in, that's a good day to, like, go to the gym or spend time with your family. Like, you have it so easy, Yeah.
Yeah.
Do not take the time for granted,
We definitely don't. It's we just complain about it, and then all of a sudden, we're at the end of the career or end of a relationship, whatever, and it's tough. So with your knife business, where are you taking it? What's the now, besides the process, is there an end goal with it, or a vision, better said?
Honestly, I hadn't given it that much thought. I'm so like, I am such an in the now person that I like, philosophically, I don't really believe in the future. It's like, I just, even from like a Hegelian dialectic point of view, or even like a Niels Bohr, like, quantum understanding of time, philosophically, there is no future, So the best you can make it right now and the most you can squeeze out of your time while you have it, that is where the value is. And if you are conscious about making good decisions, about being a good person, and about enjoying whatever process you're in, man, the future just takes care of itself.
Interesting.
Like, I think the easy answer, and maybe and maybe the answer that a lot of people were looking for, like especially from kind of like a meta dialogue like this, is, yeah, I would like to grow this into a $10 million business. I would like to sell like 1,000 units per month, but at the same time, it's like, I have to figure out how to sell 10 units a month. I have to figure out what kind of LLC am I going to construct to protect my assets so that if I cut my finger off or set my house on fire with a forge, it's those incremental steps of process that, hey, this is a good decision for right now, for this next month, that I can keep this going for the next month and fulfill the customer's needs that I've made provisions for, and part of the joy is, and part of the challenge is, the most knives I've delivered at any given time is probably like 30 or 40 at a time. Right.
Wow.
But that took like 3 months of like dedicated work, cause it's like, I'm not full time at this. And my wife graciously, she's like, if you're going to take this seriously, okay, you can have like 2 nights a week where she'll watch my children, our children, and you can go focus on this craft and develop it, and I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Not a lot of people get that opportunity.
No.
So for those 2 nights out of the week, I worry about those like short incremental steps in the process to fulfill that goal. And just like weightlifting and just like EOD work, once you build up a tolerance for work, once you build up a capacity for work and you realize what you're capable of, you start seeing that next ridgeline, which isn't necessarily like future tense, but you're like, I just accomplished this. This is what I could potentially be capable of if I were to do this again. So if I delivered if it took me 3 months to deliver 40 knives, and I got that process dialed in so tight in that time period, if it came down to being like, could I produce 50 or 60 knives in the same time period, because I've developed that capacity for work and that bandwidth for the process, and it's enjoyable, then yeah, I could hit that next ridgeline. Because a lot of people in the financial sphere, in the mentor sphere, they'll throw slogans at you like, yeah, just keep grinding, bro. Check on your homies, like success is guaranteed, USA, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, man, like you got to take it one step at a time. You have to build your work capacity. You go walk into the gym and start with a 400-pound deadlift, like it's that joy in doing like, hey, 135, get your warm-up set, get your hip mobility, get your 225 set, get your 275 set. And then at the end of that 2-hour gym session, when you're getting reps at 400 deadlift, you're like, cool, I've built up this capacity for work right now. I know that if I was to do this again more efficiently, I could build up a greater capacity of work. And if you translate that into finance, it's like, cool, I have this bandwidth and this time well spent. Mm-hmm. And I've got a little more bandwidth for like different investment programs or, finance, like you're obviously more knowledgeable about that than me, but it's like, hey, I've taken the time to read this one insurance policy. I know enough of this shared language to invest in it.
Yeah.
I know that the next time I read some insurance or investment policy, I'm going to have that bandwidth and that capability to have a better grasp of it, and maybe take a stab at that and assume that risk, because I've built those foundational layers just to get to where you're at.
100%.
And tie it all back into what I said before. It's like, and part of that process is like, you got to be okay with failure. You got to be okay with being misdirected. You got to you got to be okay with making bad decisions and just learning from it. And you got to be at all times like totally in the zone of enjoying what you're doing. And if your flavor is making knives or making money or building birdhouses or raising kids or breeding dogs or fixing cars, it's like, those small incremental steps are building work capacity
Right.
for some hypothetical Disneyland future where you're kicking in a gold hot tub 50 years from now with with your secretary because your old lady left you because you got too rich, and like I think believing in the future is it's it's antithetical to the realities of now and to the reality of accepting failure.
Interesting. I like that. It's interesting to me how we can see how we all craft our world, and you're clearly creating in the now, and that is so awesome because I can't even. I'm just astonished by even your vocabulary. Right, it's way deeper than most people we speak with. Right, and it shows that you've put a lot of time and dedication to be the man that you are. Right.
Have you read any Russian literature?
No.
I highly recommend it. It's so good. Check out Dostoevsky and Turgenev and all these great writers and Bulgakov, right? But there's a common thread in Russian culture, right? Where there's this great novel called Anna Karenina by Tolstoy, right? And this main character is this exceptionally wealthy landowner, like a modern day yacht billionaire, right?
Yeah.
And he's looking out his window at like all the peasants that are cutting his lawn. And he's like, man, like, look how happy they are. Like, look at that, right? So this super rich guy that's never done a day of work in his life goes out and he tries to take a side and he starts cutting the grass. It's a really famous scene. It's called the mowing scene, right? And as he's working, like he's fucking up the row and he's not doing it all at the right height. But he's watching the workers just kind of go through the process and they naturally stop and they smoke and they sharpen their size and then they get back up to it and their rows are perfectly straight. And after doing this thing for this whole day, right, he finally gets one row straight and he realizes that he wasn't thinking about it. He wasn't overthinking it. He wasn't thinking about what the row should look like. He was so kind of like just in this Zen moment, this pan-Asiatic trance of just being so in the now that the results just ended up becoming out perfect,
Wow. Yeah, I am gonna have to read that, dude. You're just blowing my mind. This is incredible.
It's a fantastic novel, and the dichotomy of the American literary character is you have like these bold figures that strike out into the West, that strike out into the unknown, and their most pure moments of clarity are when they're not thinking, right? Like you take an Ahab, or you take the heroine from the Scarlet Letter, or you take any Cormac McCarthy character, and their true moments of clarity are when they're so not caught up in the storm, but when they're part of the storm.
Yeah.
That what they're trying to achieve just naturally unfolds,
Yeah. Wow. That's and I'm glad that you're saying all this because everything that I've been listening to is talking about the process, right? And the people that are like truly successful is about the process. And clearly this is the theme of this conversation. And I really like that. I really value that about you and, teaching me that as well. So with that, so on to a little bit about more about finance. Now actually to that question I had backed up from network.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the value of network, and what is maybe somebody that has been impactful, and let's say out of EOD, right? Let's say it in your business.
Sure. Here, give me 1 second, all right? I'll be right back.
Yeah. Intermission. And Odin, where you going, buddy? Oh, we're gone.
Say hi. Here, this is my good boy.
Oh, man, he's the goodest boy.
Yeah, he really is. This is the best dog you'll ever meet.
That's it. I won't compete.
All right. So are you talking about like the concept of network or the verb networking? Because
both. Take me and tell us. You clearly value the proper use of words. So let's start with that. What is it? How value was the concept of network for you? And how has it impacted your business?
Shoot. Let me word this correctly. All right.
Okay. Great.
Like if you think about the Greek word agora, right, which is a public space, right, which is we get the word agoraphobia from, like, fear of being in public, right?
Yeah.
The ancient Greek agora was the market. It was where you would go to interact with everybody around you. It's where you'd go to buy loaves. It's where you'd go to get gossip. It's where you'd go to vote. It's where you'd go to pick up whatever you needed for the day. It's where you'd go to meet members of your extended family. It's where you go to meet friends, right? Mm-hmm. And it's that sort of public scene that is the heart of the free market capitalist marketplace, right?
Okay.
Where once you enter that marketplace, whether you're in a mercantile capacity or not, you're part of it. So how does that answer your question, right? Whatever market you're in, that's the network, right? That is, whether you're retailing knives or financial advice or birdhouses, or I keep going back to that for some reason. Yeah. Whether you're there to buy or whether you're to sell or whether you're there to watch, you're part of it, right? And the more present you are in that, the more the market is strengthened, right? Like if you're just a passive observer, don't just be passive, be like, hey, how is that made? You know, how is that produced? What is the quality? How does that compare to other things? Why do I need a new knife? Why do I need financial advice? Why do I need a birdhouse? You know, be an active participant in the network. And that makes everybody's lives better, because if you're there from a buying perspective and you hear those sorts of interrogative questions, it makes you think about your needs as a consumer. If you're there from a mercantile perspective, you're sensitive to the needs of the product and how you can improve it, which is good to drive down prices and improve quality in like a very Joseph Smith sort of mindset.
Right.
So existing in a modern military tactical market, right? I provide a knife, right? What is so good about my knife, right? Well, it's a knife like any other. Honestly, there's maybe 3% difference between my knife and the Gerber you're issued, or the Tor knife you're going to spend X amount of dollars on, or the half space that you're going to spend X amount of dollars on, which are both great products. And honestly, I learned so much from those guys' business models that as an active participant in the marketplace, that even my competitors are my network. You know, it's not just my customers, you know. I have no qualms about emailing these guys and being like, hey, how'd you do that? You know, like, that's amazing. I'm actually a fan, you know. I'm like Newstead joining Metallica in '86. You know, it's like, I'm here because I'm a fan, because I like this shit, and I want to produce, you know. That's the network. Even if you buy beer, right? Like, you're voting with your dollar to say, I prefer this beer, right?
Yeah.
And that short-term incremental vote of confidence in that company sustains it. It sustains jobs and it sustains economy, right? And you really can't unlink economy from network, right?
Yeah.
So being candid and aggressive in a marketplace improves everybody's experience, right?
Yeah.
Whether you and even if you have nothing to bring to the table, right, in terms of like a product or an innovation, not everybody's a Tesla or a Fessenden, you know. I deliberately left out one name there because I think he's a fraud, but I'll let you kind people figure that out. Even if you don't have something to bring to the market, if you're there to purchase goods, you're still voting with your dollar and directing the course of the network, which sustains life all around you, which is the agora, which is where we all go and socialize as animals, you know?
Yeah.
So if you translate that to the verb networking, right? That's the active participation in the marketplace. And that's your duty as a consumer to get the best product. That's your duty as an American to participate in the economy, to not only vote with your dollar, but to decide, like, I mean, just look at Bud Light, right? People are voting with their dollar short term to be like, no, we don't want that type of messaging or branding associated with beer, right?
Yeah.
Take a look at shoot. I mean, there are myriad examples of businesses tanking,
right?
Because people Americans, sure, we vote every 2 and 4 years for elected officials, but you know what we really vote for, and where the real power is? Wouldn't buy at the grocery store every day. It's are you filling your tank with 93 or 98? You know, it's and even though 98 might be better for a high performance engine, 93 is going to save you that $7 per month to buy more fresh vegetables for your kids, right?
Right.
You know, so disassociate long-term voting from the actual power, which is the short-term voting of the network, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, because I take so much joy in bringing a product to the marketplace, there is the emergent quality of, I can make money off of this. And there have been many months over the past few years where I've made more from making knives than I have from the Navy, right?
Wow.
I know, it's crazy, right? Like, I can't believe
awesome.
myself some days. The old lady doesn't mind when I show up with a lot of bills, you know?
Yeah.
But where was I going with that? Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought.
Networking and being part of the,
networking. It's your duty to be an active participant and to be critical of what's presented to you in the agora, in the marketplace, because the more aggressive you are about the quality that you require, and the more honest you are about your needs as a consumer, the more that feeds into the dialectic of wealth and prosperity, which, whether or not you buy into trickle down theory, you know, every time there's an improvement in something, I believe personally that a rising tide is going to lift all ships. You know, like, could we have gone to the moon, or could we have solved world hunger? You know, it's a vast, you know, could we have spent the amount of money that we spent on the A-bomb and made sure that there's hospitals in third world countries for the next 500 years? You know, like,
Right.
you're talking about like 5% of the American GDP in 1945. That's a huge sum of cash, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, if you look at the emergent qualities and intrinsic qualities of what you benefit from actively participating in a network, like, the world now is better than it ever has been.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's more literate people. People are freer. And despite all the setbacks of, you know, famine and disease and warfare, like, those are things that I don't think human beings will ever be able to truly shirk.
Oh,
But
no.
in those fleeting moments of peace and prosperity that some of us can get like just a handful of sand of, that is the end result of a network and a marketplace and networking that has been going on since the dawn of time. And the more you participate in it, and the more you ask of producers, and the more you contribute feedback, even if it's a Yelp review, it's going to drive quality of life. You know?
Yeah. That's, man, you so much depth to everything you say, and it's making me think. I'm like pondering of what I need to do with my steps and how my network and, you know, my impact and influence in there. And I like I want to focus on one thing, because is what you said of, like, the world is better, right? The only thing that I think that the world we believe is not better is because we're more informed.
There is the burden of information.
There's the burden of information, but I think the world is generally better. And I think that guys like you know, you've taken your niche and you're making the world better, right? Which,
you know, one knife at a time.
One knife at a time.
You know, that's really what it is. And that's why it's so important to be in the now and just enjoy whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Because if I make one quality knife and that goes to a demo range and that helps a guy slice a block of C4 that much faster, or if I make a nice kitchen knife where I've made some really nice kitchen knives and cleavers for these chefs, right?
Right.
And they show up to their carving tables and they efficiently slice meat and it looks pretty and good presentation. Like, that guy's well-being is now improved because the perception of him as not only as a professional chef, but as a connoisseur of good products,
right,
that elevates his place in the marketplace as well. Not directly from my contribution, but because he voted with his dollar to buy a good product. You know?
Yeah. And so to that, you're saying about the impact. What do you want to? What is the impact you want to make in the world outside of your family, if any?
Outside of my family? Oh, man. Shit. That's another future-based question.
Yeah, it is.
You,
I'm big on the future. I'm big on the future for other reasons, but I'm sorry. I'm not trying to bait you into it. I'm just curious.
you almost got me.
Almost.
I would like for everyone to have a puppy. The joke.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just being silly now. Sorry, can you restate the question? What positive impact?
Yeah. I'm not even gonna say positive. What impact do you want to make in the world or your world? I'm just saying outside of your family, right? I know you're a good father. We've spoken about it, and I know that's very important. But outside of this, your nucleus, if any, do you care to do any?
That's a good question. I'll answer that in two parts.
Okay.
One, if I can raise the standard of my own knife making and show the process, so that's because like when I entered knife making, it wasn't like I was raised in a knife making guild, but there's enough YouTube videos out there and there's enough tutorial content where if somebody wants to try it, they can get into it. And I've demonstrated that if I can do it, anybody can do it, and that's an important value that anybody should learn. And if you can, even by doing a podcast like this, by disseminating that personal philosophy where it's like, you can do anything, like you're capable of anything. Like Walt Whitman said that you contain multitudes, you just gotta you just gotta aggressively yank them out of you some days, even if it hurts. Like, I think spreading that mindset is probably the most positive thing that I could do for humanity writ large,
Huge.
I mean, it's the same reason why I joined the Navy, I joined the Navy to have a good adventure, and I'm not the fastest guy. I'm not the smartest guy. I am not the biggest hitter, but I've demonstrated that if you go into something with if you're able to manage expectations, then you can accomplish anything,
Yeah.
And that goes all the way from like me, Mr. White Bread, 20th century North America, Mr. Privilege himself,
Yeah.
all the way down to like the lowest street urchin in Tumaco or Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Dude, nobody's gonna hand you anything. Like,
No.
you're like, and I've been hungry, I've been tired, I've been wet, I've been cold, and it's like, you can never say die. Just fight, just get out there.
Doing it.
Just keep fucking doing it. And it doesn't matter if you have billions of dollars like Jeff Bezos at the end,
Mm-hmm.
because if you get to the end of your life and you're like, man, that was fucking awesome. Like, you've done it.
Oh yeah.
You've had the exact same experience as Musk, as Bezos, as Carnegie,
Yeah. That's huge. I totally agree with that. Giving it what is it like? The don't quit, right? Whatever it is, don't quit, keep doing it and push through it. That's huge.
Here's a good example, right? Half-face blades, I think, right? And I'd be happy for the homeboy to call me up and correct me on this. But let's say hypothetically, that company made $20 million last year, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like, I'm super proud of you. You put in the work. I've seen your products. You make extremely good shit, right?
Yeah.
If I clear like $60,000 or $70,000 this year making knives, I have the exact same level of joy, because it's that shared craftsmanship, and I don't have to make $20 million to be happy. It's like, who needs that? It's like, sure, that'd be dope. I could have a boat, but it's like, boats come with headaches too,
and puppies, a lot of puppies,
tons of puppies, dude.
tons of puppies.
All the puppies,
Everybody gets a puppy. Yeah.
Everybody gets a puppy, but
Dude.
it's like, that's, like if that's one meaningful contribution to humanity that I can make, it's like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And if you enjoy it, that is wealth in and of itself,
Dude, so true. So true. Yeah. And to kind of close off, anything that you would tell, because this has been like way deeper than what I thought it was going to be. It was excellent chat. Anything you want to share to your audience, or maybe even my audience directly? I was like, a message that you, Trevor, want to send to them? Any final things?
Read more books.
Oh, okay, great. Give us top 3 books besides the ones you've already suggested.
Shoot. If you're going into the military, you got to read Blood Meridian, and you got to read On Killing, right?
Oh, okay.
If you're going into business, you got to read How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be a well-rounded human being, just read anything. Just read more, like process information, build up that bandwidth for emotional intelligence, build up that bandwidth for vocabulary and expression. Be able, because like having a good abstract mind and a good plastic flexible mind makes you more plastic and flexible for anything you want to apply yourself to. And the more bandwidth you have for processing information, the faster you can learn things for whatever you want to do. Just read books, you know?
Yeah.
Reading makes you smarter, you know?
Sure.
Get off the fucking stripper pole scroll.
Yep.
Minutes.
Yeah.
And just go to the library and pick up a book. The book is a new technology in human history, and it is not going away.
No.
It's been proven through scholarly research that societies that have experienced apocalyptic events like Pompeii, Hiroshima, Dresden, Paris, all these, right? Fukushima. Think of like any major, like horrific natural disaster in the last century. The societies or small local cultures that were able to rebuild the fastest were the ones that were able to process information, transmit information, record information, and relay information most efficiently.
Wow. That is massive. And I had never heard of that, which right now I'm a huge fan of books. I'm actually about to start a new thing that I learned from that Hormozy guy to read better. Which is excellent. I think I'm glad that you went with that. And normally I'm a big proponent of like finance books, but I'm gonna add one book, which to me, I wish I would have read it the opposite way. And it's On Combat.
Great book.
Right. Because I mistakenly read On Combat and then On Killing, and it was terrible. But if you read On Killing, then On Combat, you're like, okay, this is good.
For anybody going into a profession of arms, you got to read those books.
Yep, I agree. And I agree. I like that you say that, because now that I'm surrounded in, the successful people, exactly what you're saying, they are infatuated with digesting as much information. And I say digesting because they read and apply.
Yeah.
Not just read. And it's huge. And to the book that you said, How to Win Friends and Influence People, he literally tells you within the first 2 pages, read every chapter twice and then keep going. And it took me
for that as an audiobook, like probably once or twice a year now. Like
really
to refresh the concepts. Yeah.
Yeah. I might have to do that, because I read the 2 chapters, took me forever, right? Because I read it twice. And it was like, man, this is so good.
It's amazing. Yeah.
But
when I first read that, I was like, I'm going to try to apply like one concept from this book in like my daily interactions in the Navy. Right. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, like you go to supply, you go to the air guys, and you're like, because wherever you go somewhere, you need something, right? Like,
oh yeah,
that's the network. Wherever you go, you need something.
And we're EOD tech, so we're really needy. We're like, can I have?
We are little prima donna needy bitches, right?
So bad.
I need this to be perfect, blah, 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 right?
Yeah, it's so bad.
Apply the precepts of that book to being like, I understand how you feel. I understand how you think. I understand. Excuse me. I understand what you need to get your job done, which is going to enable me to get my job done.
Mm-hmm.
I like all my senior chiefs started calling me Mr. Mayor, because they'd be like, send Trevor. He'll get it done. He knows how to deal with these animals. And I'm like, they're not animals. Like just, you have to get rid of that mentality, because that network is what is going to sustain your life. And the more you actively participate in it as being candid and aggressive to get your job done, everybody benefits.
Dude, that is so true. Yeah, man, this was awesome. So much knowledge. And I started a list of like, who do I need to talk to again right? Because there's people that like, this was great, but I'm like, I don't know how much more juice I can get it out. But you're like tippity top of my list that you're like, okay, we're doing this again.
Hey, anytime. Hey, just spell my tag right in the Instagram comments and we'll call it a deal. I'll come back anytime.
Dude, I am I'm a huge stickler that I come back to like, okay, I need to make it right. So with that, where can people find you?
Right here in Chesapeake, Virginia. Yeah.
Chesapeake, Virginia. Let's go. What about at the socials?
Let's see. So I have zero social media, but I started the IG page just to like document the knife journey. So you can find me at Abaddon Knives, Abaddon Knives, all one word, lowercase.
Okay.
And for those of you that can figure out where I would have got Abaddon from in the Russian literary canon, I'll mail you a sticker.
Oh, wow. I'm going to go figure it out right now, right after this call. Well, this is awesome. And dude, thank you so much for your time. This was a huge pleasure. And I look forward to doing it again, man. Again, thank you so much. This podcast is not financial advice, and it only represents the opinions of those participating. Our goal is to get you to your version of financial independence. Please follow and like on every platform.